We also wanted to cover for you, as part of these ongoing hostage release deals, put this up on the screen, some really troubling potential news. Hamas is claiming that the youngest hostage and 3 family members were actually killed in Israeli bombing. Of course, this is coming from Hamas. It has not been confirmed, so we don't know for sure. But this report from NBC News says fears were raised Wednesday for the youngest hostage held in the Gaza Strip after Hamas claimed that 10-month-old Kfir Bibas had been killed along with his brother and mother. Israel's military says they are assessing the claim. Relatives said they were waiting for the news to be confirmed or hopefully refuted soon about the family members who've become leading faces of the hostage crisis. It's these 2 adorable little red-haired babies who's, have really captured the hearts and concerns of the Israeli public and many other people around the world. And, Saagar, this is one of the reasons why a lot of the family members of the hostages have been pushing so stridently from the beginning and protesting vehemently against Netanyahu and pushing for some sort of a deal to be struck, because they were saying, listen, our family members are in Gaza too. Now, again, this isn't confirmed, but to be honest with you, it would be extraordinary if none of the hostages were injured by this bombing campaign, because it was so widespread. I mean, most of northern Gaza is completely destroyed. So this is, horrible possible news, as I said.
Exactly. And look, Hamas also, they need to release evidence of this, because it's also equally possible that these kids died of dehydration or, who knows, in terms of the conditions that they were being held. Also, I mean, there's small children and family, like you never know.
Well, these are siege conditions
delicate,
too.
Yeah, it's siege conditions.
No water, no food being allowed in.
There's a lot of reasons why, obviously, that something like this could happen. So if this is true, like, they need to literally release all the evidence. I know that they're not going to. The Israelis also, as far as I understand it, have not acknowledged the claim, or they claim that they're investigating. The families themselves just says, our family is updated on the latest publication. We are waiting for the news to be confirmed or hopefully refuted soon by military officials. So the family itself remains in limbo. But it is actually, I think, highlights, and one of the reasons we wanted to cover it, is some of the complex nature in which Israeli society is grappling with this. Because you're right, there is no organic, like, we need a ceasefire pushback. But there is a lot of sympathy around the hostages. And conducting the military operations vis-a-vis protecting the actual hostages is a big cause of concern with the families. We saw it when we interviewed Gili Roman, the family of a hostage here. As I mentioned previously, she was released, thank God, earlier today. But, you could see the concern on his face and amongst a lot of others around, are these people going to be safe? Especially when we know from the hostages who have been released so far, they did say many of them were held in Gaza City in the north, and many of them were actually released in the zone of control, supposedly, by the IDF, showing, again, also, their control is not as ironclad as one may think. So we wanted to give everybody that update. Obviously, we don't know any of the details or all of that on it, but it does relate to a big question around it, and also to the possible temporary extension about what might happen here.
So the last thing we have for you on that, put this up on the screen, is there are additional extension talks which are ongoing. The headline here from the Times, some officials hope that brief pauses will pave the way to talks on ending the war. International mediators were pushing on Wednesday to lock in another temporary extension of that ceasefire. And you guys will remember the deal was basically for every 10 additional hostages released by Hamas, there would be an additional day of the ceasefire. However, the original deal only dealt with women and children. So obviously you also have men and you have military who were not covered by that original deal. There have been some indications that Hamas would like to expand the deal to also talk about, soldiers and men who are civilians, and no indication that Israelis are interested in that at this point, but we don't really know. Officials with knowledge of the talks said they also hope the succession of short-term pauses would pave the way toward a larger goal, negotiations over a longer-term ceasefire to bring the war to a close. Speaking on condition of anonymity, a senior Israeli official said 97 women and children had been taken hostage, and that after Wednesday's release, some 24 remained. So that means if you're just keeping it with women and children, the extent of the pause that's possible is very limited. And that's, again, assuming that all of those individuals are still alive. It's assuming they can be located by Hamas, which you may think sounds ridiculous, but they were being held by a variety of groups, in a small enclave, which is under complete siege, where communications are frequently cut. So the process of actually locating these individuals is not necessarily straightforward. And they said there are currently no negotiations aimed at a longer-term ceasefire or an exchange involving all the remaining hostages for all the remaining Palestinian prisoners. So, Netanyahu, we've covered some of these comments, and his defense minister, Gallant, they have been very clear that after this temporary pause, we're going right back at it. There were comments that were made that were like, I think by Gallant, that it's going to be stronger than ever. It's been going to be more aggressive than ever throughout the entire strip. And just to remind people of where we are, obviously they already bombed the hell out of northern Gaza. It's basically completely uninhabitable, especially Gaza City. They told everybody to move to the south. All 2.2 million or close to it Palestinians have been clustered now in the south, including in cities like Khan Yunis, where they're now saying they're going to center the new bombing campaign. So as brutal as what has already unfolded has been, the level of brutality possible going forward is even greater, since you have all of these civilians now clustered into an even smaller area than before.
That's why I just simply don't think that the similar situation will unfold. It's possible, it certainly is. It's not like I would put it past them. I just think that there's a lot of geopolitical realities that could constrain it, including the hostage situation. One thing to not forget also is that all the hostages released so far, there are many IDF soldiers who are also being held in as hostages by Hamas, who were kidnapped on October 7th. You should not forget that they too have quite a bit of sympathy. So they are actually not even really on the table in terms of exchange right now, because they're seen and operating in a different place. But don't forget also that this will remain an issue, I think, in Israeli society for some time to come.
That's right.
Especially given the past hostage exchanges that Netanyahu himself had to acquiesce to. We'll see how it all plays out, but we definitely want to give everybody that update.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.